Why do folks outside the US keep asking if it is really that bad? I see a lot of posts on this here. Yes. Work is bad in the US and people are mistreated all the time. You can read about it from reputable journals. Not just Reddit anecdotes. Congratulations. Your country offers vacation and decent salaries and treats people like human beings and whatnot. Yes. We would like that too. Do a little research before being dismissive. Edit to those asking why not strike. Do you not notice all the strikes happening here? Amazing it is happening at all with the anti-union garbage. A lot of people don't strike because there is little to no social safety net in the US. So striking can mean job loss, healthcare loss, housing loss, etc. Adding that in the USA, healthcare is an industry and an employment benefit. Americans aren't people. They are commodities. The new American dream is to live outside of America. When I lived in the US, I used to be proud that US workers are the most productive in the world. Now that I live across the pond in Europe, I can see the dark side propaganda element to that assertion. I worked for Siemens for 5 years. After that I will not put up with the American shit. It's just degrading. I only need to work part-time but discovered that being fired from one American shitty situation does not keep me from getting the next shitty American job. USA was the only country in the UN that said food was not a right to its citizens. I mean IDK how much more masks off and fucked up it can be. Everywhere else in the world agrees that people need food. Not the US. Gotta earn that shit. Let me add that Americans are criminalized at a high rate, which leaves us conveniently trapped here to exploit. Because once we're stained with a criminal record, so any other country that might be a better option just says thanks but no thanks. It's because they literally can't believe their worst nightmares are our realities. It just doesn't compute that things that are illegal where they are constitute everyday practices in the US. But in the same vein, Americans have a hard time believing the truth behind hardships we consider to be human rights violations. It's all about perspective. I've gone from actually believing my woes are 100% my fault to realizing I've been played by the system from permanently depressed to permanently angry. Yes. It fucking sucks here. The financial woes put strain on my marriage, on my relationships, on my livelihood. I have a growth on my skin that I fear is a melanoma, but because I have no insurance professional chef here. Mind you, I rely on the I hope this isn't terminal health plan. I'm an ex-American that moved out of that dystopian nightmare over 20 years ago. I see a lot of things from reputable journals, but it's the personal anecdotes that are the most surprising. I don't think anyone is really being dismissive. They just cannot believe it's as bad as you say. I honestly can't believe how much the US has gone downhill since I left. It's utterly shocking. Also, there are many of us who would love to move out of this situation, but immigration is difficult. Many jobs aren't sponsoring people from other places, and even those of us with desirable skills cannot afford all of the expensive hoops required because of our shit pay. Maybe help support immigration from the US instead of just marveling at how much it sucks here. Bro, it's not because haha America shit. It's because the thought of having under 20-30 vacation days or having 2 sick days which are paid is such an unbelievable concept. Living under European standards and learning about how badly you guys get treated is just a huge, mind-blowing thing and is so dystopian. Why do people ask on Reddit? Because they want opinions that are more personal and unfiltered, because they just can't believe it. Most of the time is not about making fun of that, it's more out of sympathy or shock. It's crazy how fucked up it is really is, and I know I couldn't survive in a world like this. I think if you live somewhere with human rights, the state of the US probably is extremely shocking. I do not see it as dismissive. More shock that the supposed world leader has such bad conditions and we tolerate them. Because it is so f***ing bad no one believes it. I actually don't mind people asking, is the US really that bad, because US propaganda has fooled so many people. The image of the American dream is still so real in international propaganda. Yes, it's frustrating for USians to keep commenting. Yes, it is. And here's why, but it's necessary for us to keep making real accounts to counter the image of the US that's projected on international media. No paid parental leave, beyond expensive higher ed, expensive and restrictive healthcare, and still limited access. Right-wing fanatics fight against reproductive freedom, healthcare and parental freedoms. And a civilly liable rapist, 4 times indicted treasonous man is the front runner of a major party for president. Oh, and guns are everywhere at all times. I miss anything? Because labor laws are generally so different outside the USA that it's shocking there are basically no protections. People in third world countries have access to basic things that we don't. Like free healthcare, free education, and paid maternity leave. I've long said America is just a rich third world country. It's so absurd and cartoonishly broken that it's difficult to work out if people are exaggerating, or it's really as much an objectively cruel clusterfuck as it is. Lately, the thought that a hospital has shareholders sends a chill down my spine. I think most comments like that come from a place of sympathy, rather than being dismissive. I think it is a surprise to many due to the usual propaganda that US is the best. No better country in the world. The American dream means you can just move there and become rich. Yada yada. I can't speak for other people, but I would say it's not so much dismissive as horrified. I think a lot of people outside the US do that to ensure the average US citizen knows they're getting fucked, in the hopes that at some point they'll do something about it. But it seems like everyone's just comfortable enough to not rock the boat. They're not being dismissive. They're shocked by it. Why are you criticizing people expressing sympathy and concern? Propaganda is a powerful tool. You left off how health insurance gets tied to a job. Losing a job could literally kill you here. Cobra is laughably expensive for an unemployed person. People stay in jobs that they hate for years because of it. Why do they ask if it's that bad? Because it's hard for people who don't live with our bullshit system to internalize that the richest, greatest nation on earth treats its citizens like complete and utter shit. Because it's so much better there, they can't fathom it being this bad here. We have great PR here so long as no one gets a look at it. They can't believe we live in hard mode. The myth of the American dream was sold the world over. America isn't a democracy, it's a corporation. The entirety of the world has been fed American culture for the past 6 or 7 decades. They feel they know the country just because they have seen it in the movies. There's a real painful cognitive dissonance for a part of the world who took it at face value and believed the US was a developed country, complete with democracy and high standards of living. Outside of the US, we mostly receive media that portrays an average worker that owns a huge home with a front lawn and backyard, a minivan, a modern car, and kids that go to public schools with football fields. I remember when I first started working in Mexico asking myself, so if I do that kind of job, I should have that kind of life. I later learned that Hollywood executives and directors are not that socially aware. I think we are just amazed that you do not vote for politicians who are for a public healthcare system and a social safety net. So many Americans vote against their own self-interests.